This is a topic for so many people, and this includes people who claim to be liberty-minded, that they completely lose sight of when we look at big companies and corporate entities that they gripe about. Recently, the tech companies have, of course, been under question by people that are on different sides of the spectrum. Let leftists tell that they're the ones being discriminated against. But I think we can all here agree that non-leftists are the ones that get the brunt of what it is. It's like an acceptable narrative, and anything outside of this, you risk getting completely taken down. Okay? And you look at Amazon, Google, Microsoft being kind of the biggest guys that perpetuate this. People like to think, they talk about private companies and private entities, and I hate to hear it, but people talk about, well, these companies actually are bigger and more powerful than the government. You stupid motherfucker. That has nothing to do with what's going on. A lot of these guys' positions and power came by way of the government. And they're not by way of what you usually think of it, in a way of like a subsidy or a direct grant where the government stole from taxpayers to just give them a lump sum of money to do something. Does that happen? Absolutely. A lot of these big companies get that, but not always is that the case. A lot of it comes, and what we're going to be talking about today, a story that you probably never even heard about, a lot of it comes by way of contracts. That is, the state stole your money by way of taxing, by way of stealing assets from unborn people, monetizing debt. And then they gave the money by way of a contract, or something they shouldn't even been in control of, then gave the money to the companies to do their bidding, right? We see this in the prison system. This is why I've always hated this term private prisons. It's a stupid ass, nonsensical term that's used to only demonize private property. That's the only reason that term private prison even exists, because if you look at it, no, that's not what it is. All their entire budget is paid for by way of the state. How the fuck can you say that that's completely private? If anything, it's fascism. A story that you probably never heard of. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and other tech companies are in a frenzy to help ICE build its own data mining tool for targeting unauthorized workers. So this is what's about to happen. They're about to basically get, and we'll get to it here. Earlier this year, representatives from the three tech giants attended an industry a day arranged by ICE to discuss the little-known investigative analytics tool called Raven. By the end of September, ICE is scheduled to award 3 contracts up to $300 million. So $200 million away from fucking being half a goddamn $1 billion. And the companies that will maintain the system through 2025. This is akin to, for example, Amazon, AWS, which you heard about, like the Parler situation and them getting kicked off of that. Again, people don't sit up here and think about what actually happened out of that. Amazon web services weren't even profitable until they started getting government contracts, right? And they had government contracts all around the goddamn world. Like, it wasn't something specific to the U.S. And in fact, they bragged about it, right? Like, we have contracts with, whether it be hosted on the cloud services of so many governments that we work with across the world, right? So again, that's money being stolen from by taxpayers that is being used to have them provide a service specifically for the government. To lose sight of that and act like that doesn't happen is being disingenuous. And almost nobody does it, right? Because all they look at is, big company does something that I don't like. The big company is too big. And they don't look at how they got there. They don't look at, we've talked about monopolies. You heard me and Tim Pool arguing about this shit. And I talked about how no monopoly in the history of monopolism has ever become one by way of not using the government. That has never happened. From fucking, what if you deem Rockefeller, but even Rockefeller was fucking bribing goddamn like legislators. Like, this isn't a new thing. The Bell monopoly working with local governments so that competition can't build lines. Like, this is all stuff that has happened historically. And a lot of these uber mega corporate entities have participated in this by way of not just subsidies and grants. Sometimes it's by way of a government contract. And that is simply the government saying, we need you to do something, do our bidding, and we'll steal from the taxpayers to pay for it. And that's how they then fund all these other projects and get this massive. To act like that doesn't happen, and again, is being disingenuous. It happens more often than not. And this is why anything aside from focusing on the government power that is the government taxation that is, actually loses sight of what the actual problem is. And the problem goes completely unaddressed until you address that, because a lot of folks want to slap a Band-Aid on it. They address the symptom. Twitter or Google is censoring me. Therefore, government needs to come in and take over fucking YouTube for some dumb shit like that, which I've actually heard people advocate. Not looking at, well, what about how did Google get in the position that they got in? Other government contracts. And I'm not saying that I know the exact number, but almost all of these mega corporate entities, especially Facebook, and when you look at with advertisement and all that money that these campaigns are spent on these companies, like, to act like that isn't a thing is being disingenuous. And they'd be far less powerful in the event that they were completely cut off from government money in the way of a contract, in way of a subsidy or a grant or any other sort of, hey, I'm working with government, you scratch my back, we'll give you some money here. You have to focus on the actual problem, not simply looking at the symptom and trying to slap a Band-Aid on it. This has been happening for decades upon decades, and a lot of the mega corporate entities that have been around for a very long time got there by way of utilizing government money, so stolen from taxpayers all around the fucking world, in order to become as big and powerful as they actually are. Until you address that, this problem will continue to be a problem, and maybe it'll be a new company that'll get swapped out in the event you want the government to take over, whatever. But either way, that becomes an issue. The government's power needs to be completely eliminated in a lot of these regards, at minimum minimized, so that they can have to at least fight for the dollars of the people in order to get where they're at, right? It's different between me reaching in my pocket and then paying for a service and getting whatever I got out of it. And maybe they get rich off of it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's another for the government to say, okay, we're going to steal from all you guys, and then we're going to use that money to lace this company up. And this happens so often.
You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.